Hello, I'm Ian Lee. Welcome to the Express Debate. Today we're asking, is there too much immigration into the UK? I'm joined by Atul Hatwell, Director of Migration Matters, and also Stephen Wolfe, MEP for UKIP, and also you're the UKIP spokesman for migration. Straight to you, Stephen. Is there too much immigration into this country?
Yes, there is. There are 4 million within 10 years, according to some numbers, that came through open door migration, predominantly from Eastern Europe, during the period of the Labour government.
Atul, there's too much migration into this country?
In a word, no. What we can
It's indisputable, according to Stephen.
Well, the 3 key points about immigration. One, our public services depend on the skills of migrants. Almost 40% of NHS doctors are migrants. Without migrants, the NHS collapses. 2, migrants pay in more than they take out, the cost of services used. It's the equivalent to half of spending on primary and secondary school pupils. That's higher taxes and higher debt if migration is stopped. And 3, migrants create jobs. 1 in 7 come from migrant businesses.
Let's look at that point. Migrants create jobs. You look like you're not quite agreeing with that.
No, because one of the reports that came from this actually had a breakdown of all the different jobs that were created by those who were either first generation, second generation migrants to this country. But the real big point that I want to take on here is actually the economic evidence for migration. We do need to make a difference between overall migration, which is a combination of mass low-skilled migration and skilled migration. Every economic report that I've seen, including the annual OECD reports, says there's no effective impact on GDP, 0.1%.
That's not true.
I've just finished on this.
That's just not true. An independent economic watchdog set up by the government said very clearly just 2 months ago, immigration raises GDP per head. GDP is our annual wealth. We as a country, per person, get richer. I speak to employers every week. Employers tell me that they have a real challenge actually recruiting to low-skilled jobs because we have a skills challenge in this country. We have a skills problem in this country because some of our schools aren't doing well enough. But migrants actually put in...
I'm sorry,
go on, Stephen, go on.
It's a very easy answer to say it's the schools' problems that we've got a skills shortage in here rather than governments being able to invest in the right type of education that we've got. And I've heard this since I was going to university. There's a kind of view that the poor are at fault here, and that is completely untrue.
So let me just clarify, because there will be people watching this who believe that immigration into this country is costing us money in benefits, costing us money in taxes and in jobs. You're saying that is indisputably not true. It's the opposite. It's making us money.
Yes, and I understand exactly why people think that immigration is bad for the country, because we have a very skewed debate. One of the things that the Migration Matters Trust was set up to do was to try to drag the debate back away from the myths, away from the stereotypes, to the evidence. And if you look at the actual figures, they're very clear. Migrants put in more than they take out.
Is Stephen telling myths and fairy tales?
Unfortunately so, and that is UKIP stock in trade. And that is UKIP stock in trade, because this time last year, Stephen, your party was saying that 29 million Romanians and Bulgarians were going to come to this country. Nigel Farage in the Express...
We did not say 29 million were going to come.
No, Nigel Farage said in the
opportunity.
Nigel Farage in the Express in November 2013 said we will have net migration of 250,000. 5,000 a week from Romania and Bulgaria in the first 3 months.
Either way, it is a lot of people, isn't it? And you can understand why certain British workers would be upset that they're being priced out of their own jobs. Builders and decorators and plumbers.
Saying that isn't the case.
Well, they are being priced out, aren't they? Because people are coming from Eastern Europe and they're doing it cheaper.
It is certainly the case in some sectors. If we are concerned about wages in this country, actually, the answer is in the flexibility of our labour market. Here's an interesting sort of statistic. Of the 10 sectors which have the highest number of migrants working in them, in the majority of cases, 4 out of 5 workers in these sectors are Brits.
So here's the answer to that. This is a classic case. Instead of having a mass open door migration which increases the amount of people working in the pool available for employers, where an employer can turn around and say, I don't have to invest in people through apprenticeships. I don't have to have the government invest in new schools or colleges, which is our type of policy from UKIP. The best answer to that is raise the minimum wage. Raise it to a living wage. So in fact, what you're doing is taxing the rest of the population, because they're the ones who are going to have to pay the costs for increased prices.
There is nothing mutually exclusive about pushing government to invest in schools, but you have to be
Well,
realistic.
what about wage
Stephen,
inflation?
Stephen,
What about
you have to
natural
be,
wage
you have to
inflation?
be realistic about this.
Open door migration
You have to be
stops
realistic about this.
natural
You
wage inflation.
cannot-
Can you deny
basically,
that?
we have 656,000 unfilled vacancies in our economy. Your policy rests on waving a magic wand.
I want to ask you 2 points.
It is fairy tale
Do you-
economics, and it is willfully.
It's not fairy tale economics
willfully
because it's
deceiving
done
people.
by
Let's-
international.
Stephen's got the
I
point.
want to ask you 2 points. Firstly, do you believe we should have complete open door migration with no barriers whatsoever?
Absolutely not.
Okay, well, that's our policy. We believe we should have controlled migration. The second policy, do you think it's absolutely fair and ethical that someone from Europe has the right to immediately come into the UK, but someone like my grandparents, who's a black American, has to go through a visa system?
Going back to one of the kind of impacts of immigration, immigration brings many benefits, but it does bring challenges. And what we have to be smarter about as a country is managing that sort of integration, because if you want the benefits, you have to have the integration as well. People have to accept British values. People have to speak the language.
Absolutely.
And that's key to just, this basic thing about rubbing along together.
Do you know what? I'm going to stop it there because you just agreed with each other. And I think that's a really nice point to end on with you agreeing. Stephen Attell, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much, Cecil.
Look, they're
Thank you.
shaking hands as well. This is unprecedented. The debate continues. There are benefits, there are negatives. What do you think? Thank you, chaps. That was great.